People are starting to come in. But I need to get some water, so I'm gonna let people pile in for a second before I get going. So I'm just gonna wait a minute. I appreciate everyone that is here so far. Thank you. It's gonna take a minute. Sweet, I dig it. Hell yeah. Posting in the dorks, want to make sure people are aware. All right, you guys. Let's get some things set up. I like the hat too, actually. The hat was a gift. I said real talk a few times publicly for Netrunner, and a friend of mine, I think they were in some store, I don't know which store, and they saw the hat and they said this is perfect for you, and they actually bought it and brought it to me. So I was like, all right, cool. I guess I have to keep it now forever, because if I don't, like, how could I lose such a wonderful gift that's been provided to me? All right, let me. Excellent. All right, guys, I'm gonna be right back. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna get some water, and then I'll be right back with everybody. And discuss sort of the format that I kind of have in mind, although it's pretty loose, but it's still worth talking about, I think, and I'll get started. I will be right back. Be right back. Let's close this out too before I leave. All right, be right back, guys. Everyone in the chat heard you. Let's get these puppies on real quick. Alrighty, you guys. All right, what's going on here? All right. Okay, so first off, I want to just really say thank you all so much for actually being here right now. The truth is that I've been doing casting related to Netrunner for a little while now, and I often don't get a chance to really address anybody that watches the content, or really anybody in Netrunner in general, in a way that isn't a bit more formal. I think a lot of the times in those other recordings and podcasts that I'm lucky enough to be a part of, the discussion points tend to be very careful, and they're very centered around like specific subject matters, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But I know that some of the best times I have in Netrunner, especially when I started the game, was being able to meet up with my friends and like looking at the game as a whole, looking at cards coming out, cards that are currently in the card pool, the state of the game, the mentality of the players, people you do and don't like, the community, and having those detailed discussions about that stuff, because I felt like, for me personally, that kept me really interested in the game. And I feel like lately that's sort of gone downhill a bit as far as how often people talk about it. It's been centered mostly around the Stem Slack channel, which is fantastic. I very much actually like what that channel sort of provides. But in short, I felt like I often stifle the things that I want to say for the sake of saving face or being very, very polite. Now, that doesn't mean, in what I'm doing in this, that I'm setting out to be an asshat. That's not the plan here. I'm gonna bring some things to the forefront that I think are kind of not really talked about publicly because they're a little risque for the community or whatever, or a little inflammatory. But I also don't want to make a point. I want to make it clear that my goal here isn't just to be a shoutcast. Like like the idea is not for me to hop on here and to roast somebody or to make anyone or if members of the community feel bad or anything like that. But if I think there's a concern, I want to talk about it with the members of the community. And I want, the feedback. I want your 2 cents. If you're upset about it, if you don't care, if it's whatever. I mean, still, that kind of feedback is really important. I feel like, the things I see talked about online are not really talked about very publicly in any podcast. And I said, hey, if that's the case, why don't we just try that? Why don't we just try talking about it? So yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyway, the format is real simple. I'm gonna just pick some discussion points, some things that I do and don't like about what I'm seeing currently, and I'm gonna talk about them. Now, the idea is that it will pretty much primarily be me talking to the camera. If you guys want to add a rebuttal, of course, you can do it in chat occasionally. I might even let someone just call me and get your audio feedback, not video yet, but get the audio feedback and kind of hear the question or the concern that's asked. And from there, we can talk and discuss this in the chat and elaborate on that here in the chat. It's really more or less going to give you my perspective, and I also am able to get your perspective and stuff like that. And I know people are joking in the chat already, saying that it's Project Burn Bridges, but I'll say this. I joked around on Facebook and I said people might get their feelings hurt. Now, what I meant by that is that I don't really want to pull the punches. If I dislike something, I want the freedom to tell you that I dislike something. You're welcome to disagree. At the end of the day, you're going to think I'm wrong or right or dumb or intelligent or whatever. It's the internet. A veil of anonymity allows you to say whatever you want. But I also want to make it clear that I'm not personally trying to attack anybody. And just because I disagree with something doesn't mean I think anything regarding your intelligence or anything like that, like whatever. So I really would just start sort of with, I really sort of just start with the state of the game and how it looks to me. And I guess I'll pose this question and let you guys add some responses right now before I begin. So my question is to you guys. So it's real simple. Currently, do you find the existing meta of Netrunner fun? Real simple. So when you look at the decks that you bring to tournaments and decks you bring to your local game nights for your game night kids, are you having fun playing the game? That's all that's to me, that's one of the most important questions. And I'll wait for some responses here. But to me, that's one of the most important questions in Netrunner. Here's a small little brief story. when I started playing the game, the thing that stood out to me the most was just the world itself. It was very, very cool. The thematics of the game were really interesting. Mechanically, I was slow getting there, but I was moving towards like, hey, I'll stick with this game because the world and the setting is so interesting that I can build towards mechanically being better at the game because the IP is so interesting. Now, of course, I've swapped a bit where now my thought process is very much now on the mechanical side. Participating in so many tournaments, and having my local league and building that player base or being a part of that player base, I've been very interested in making it so that when I look at cards and I evaluate them, my evaluation and for the meta, for the game, for decks is always now based on that sort of mechanical aspect. And when I look at the available card pool and the things that people are playing that are interesting, that I think may be interesting, I find that it's not very fun for me, which is really sad. It's really sad, and I think part of that is the deck design. Part of that is deck design and available options. I think Alexander White once said, I want to say this is maybe right around the end of Worlds last year. He made an interesting statement. He said something to the effect of, "It's very weird to me that with the meta having such a negative impact on a lot of players, it was oddly diverse in things that you play, because it was sort of this rock paper scissors sort of like metagame where even though the decks that were played weren't very like fun and had resulted in a negative play experience for other people, there were maybe enough of them to have that rock paper scissors sort of dynamic, and that seemed fun. But I feel like currently that's really not the case as much anymore. I feel like you very much have to you have some very specific deck choices that are so definitely better that it's very difficult to play anything interesting and have fun with the game in a similar fashion that you were before the card pool got so big. Now, I'm not the kind of person that would tell you Johnny A and Johnny B should be able to pick up any rando deck and it'd be just as good as the most competitive deck. Never. I don't think that at all. If you guys have ever played any other competitive card game, you know that's not the way it works. But for sure, I feel like things have gone downhill. Just to respond to things in chat here. Thank you, Seth, for the shout out. Just some responses back here. For example, V states, recently I've been trying to force myself to make fun decks, but it feels like I'm just ignoring a lot of obvious choices. And I know fun decks wouldn't keep up with the real decks. And I feel like that sentiment's very much shared with a lot of people. I think that you get to that weird point where you can make a deck that's really interesting, and yeah, you're going to have fun when you play it, but you know that ultimately the deck is not going to do well in a tournament setting. And I'm not saying that every deck should, but you would expect some marginal options that allow you to not like completely, I guess the phrase is, shit the bed when those decks are played. I would very much feel comfortable playing a deck that was a tier 1.5 or a tier 2 if it didn't feel like it was so terrible in comparison that it was not even justifiable even playing it to have fun in the tournament. Maybe I'll get somebody, maybe this is a hard meta smasher and I'm trying to just really predict the meta. I don't feel like those options actually exist very much. Someone else said earlier, and I'm sorry, I'm scrolling back up in the chat. But someone mentioned they feel like the game is more fun when they're playing in person. Bradley Galbraith said this, actually. And here's another aspect. I don't know if you guys have watched Shut Up and Sit Down's review of Terminal Directive. If you haven't seen it, I don't have the link, unfortunately, but if you haven't seen it, I recommend you go to YouTube when you guys are free and you watch that, because I think the review is very appropriate. But what I like about what they said is, card games in general tend to have this weird lifespan as far as like when they start to go downhill or when they struggle, to stay relevant. And I think that Netrunner may have hit that stride maybe earlier than it needed to because of existing factors in the game. But a contributing factor to that, I think, is also online playability. Now, I'm not saying that online, being able to play the game through programs like Octagon and Jinteki.net are negative things. I think that they definitely can help the game because it means that people can practice now. If you really want to get good in Netrunner, you really want to try stuff out, you can practice 7 days a week at any hour on your lunch break and have fun, playing games that way. But the negative is that if you it also sort of makes the meta very, very small. Also, if you remember back at Octagon when data used to get collected, I don't know about you, but I would absolutely use that data as a means to kind of look at it and go, oh, I see. So NBN wins, some 58% of games. All right, well, it seems to me, just statistically, I should be playing NBN. Now, there's a weird sort of like counter meta here because obviously you don't have to play NBN, but if you know NBN is the most likely to win, it makes sense to play that deck. Let me clarify also. Even though it makes more sense to play that deck, it also means you get the option to say, all right, everyone's playing NBN. Let me play the counter strategy. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's not a video. Sorry. It is an article. It's an article about it. I apologize. But you should watch all Shut Up and Sit Down's videos anyway because they're also fantastic. But that's basically it. I feel like Octagon and Jinteki help you play the game more often with more players, but the negative is, of course, is that it makes the actual world smaller, and I think it sort of creates this, and this is sort of the joke in it, a sort of echo chamber, where everyone's looking at these competitive decks and like, all right, everyone's playing this, I got it. I get at a glance when I'm looking competitive, I see the factions that are playing. Let me hop in. Okay, I know that guy's good and he's playing this. I'm jumping out. Let me see what that guy's playing. He's good and he's playing this. Let me jump out. And that's pretty much the concern. The last aspect about like the game being fun for me happens to do very much with the large card pool, and that's also being talked about right now in chat. Peachhack, aka Benjamin Terrell, because I know Ben is probably the one under that screen name. He's saying that everyone he's talked to has said rotation should have happened, way sooner. I know Spags, Scott Paglaroni. I'm sorry if I messed up your last name, buddy. Spags has said this often as well. Rotation should have happened a long time ago, and the reason why is because the card pool's gotten so big, and there's a fair amount of problem cards that need to be added to the most wanted list or need errata and what have you, that the game is getting stale as a result, and it makes it very difficult to deal with so many issues when rotation isn't happening. I have my own concerns about rotation. Like, I know that they say that the meta is as such that cards like Jackson Howard are no longer really required. And while I think the dependency on Jackson has definitely lessened, I don't agree that a card like Jackson does not need to be in the game. And I think that, that's part of the struggle. I feel like we want to see the rotation happen because ultimately that can be great for helping rebalance the game, maybe even slow it down a bit by removing cards, but also amazing cards like some of the 3-2s and like Jackson. It makes me wonder how the meta is going to really take to those cards getting removed. And if there's appropriate answers, like I can tell you right now, if each faction doesn't get an appropriate answer for something effect that may be similar to Jackson, I'm not really adding a threat here. But I'm terrified of what will happen to the available community if Jackson is gone and there's not an appropriate replacement to fix that level of balance of the game, where the corp can basically get flooded and there's no available answer for this. I always try to be funny and talk directly to FFG about stuff like this. Do not, this is an actual warning for me, I will not disillusion myself to think that by not having an answer to early game flood or any sort of such mechanic is okay. Like no answer and just saying suck it up, you big baby, is not okay. And the reason why is because I don't know how many of you played in the game pre-Jackson, but there were absolutely tournaments that I had gone to where you had two great players in the finals, and their opening hand, first opening hand was 3 agendas, and they mull into another hand with 3 or more agendas, and there was no available answer to fix it. And so now you have this weird set where you're like, sure, RNG exists, like variants exist, but there's not an available card for the corporation to balance the potential RNG that is available, and that's a negative play experience. Slice it and dice it any way you want, that's a negative play experience. Nobody wants to play the game where you can say, all right, well, I can, I guess look at some of the best players you know. Tell me what's exciting. What's more exciting to you? Chris Dyer and Dave Hoyland playing each other, and they both have fairly good starts, and it's just, man, I want to see click by click who's going to best each other with the best strategy, best plan, click after click, turn after turn. Or is it better to say, hey, they're both really good, but, it looks like Dave, poor guy, 4 agendas in his Mohan. I guess really there's not a great fix. I guess he's just going to have to play with 4 agendas. Like that's not even exciting to watch. I don't even want to watch that. Like if that isn't a circumstance that happens during a tournament, you know what I'm doing? I'm clicking off that tournament. I'm gonna go get a soda because I know who's probably winning that game. Sure, he might muster some strength and someone doesn't run, but it just feels like, that's really not the right answer. It doesn't feel like the answer to saying suck it up and deal with it is not the right call. Now I have full faith that FFG will give an appropriate card in there. I'm just giving you a personal fear of mine. I hope that's not the case. So, give me a second, guys. I'm gonna look through here, and I'm gonna see. I'm gonna read some chats. Read some things here. Someone said they heard from a source that L5R is bad. We're not gonna talk about that because I don't even know. It's like people are still talking about rotation. Someone mentioned that Moonbattle was actually pretty terrible for the meta. I'm inclined to agree. I think most people would agree with that. Oh, hey. All right, I will say this. I will talk about the Damon situation. So you have no fear. The O2 shortage Damon conversation is gonna be discussed. Not yet. The O2 that discussion will be talked about. I assure you. I promise. That was definitely on my list. It will be discussed. Let me see. So yeah, the next thing I wanted to chat about neutral. Sorry, so to Michael Dunnick. I'm sorry. Let me just comment about Jackson or something like Jackson being neutral. Michael Dunnick, actually, I think that would be the best. I think that if a form of Jackson of some kind, of some saving card, was printed, I think it would be best to print that card as neutral, as opposed to printing it in a faction. The reason why is because I feel like if you print it in a faction, what's going to end up happening is the card is just pretty much going to have a high influence cost probably anyway, because they don't want you to be like HB and have the recursion card for NBN and for Jinteki, right? Like that would just why have 9 Jacksons or whatever the flavor is. I don't think they want that. I think the right answer would be to make it something like neutral and no influence, and that way everyone can only run 3 of it. That's it. They solve the problem for everybody. No one has to use influence on it. You just get it. Also, if they make one for every faction, I don't think they will realistically balance every version of the card to be equal for everyone. I think one corpse version will be better than another corpse version. So as a result, what if there's a misstep? I'm not trying to call them out on any bad card design necessarily right now, but let's say, for example, the Jinteki version is much better than the HB version. Well, if the HB version is nigh unplayable, then I don't think you want to punish HB by having to spend an influence or 2 bringing in the Jinteki card, or bringing in the NBN card or Wayland card. So I think just having a neutral card that's universally good is probably the best choice. But I don't know. Maybe they already have a great plan that I'm not aware of. Who knows? Let me go ahead and ask you this also. If there's any card or any question you guys have in chat, and I'm missing it, ask it. I'm going to try to copy some of these and post them so I can bring them up later. Also, the question can be about pretty much anything for the most part as it relates to Netrunner. You can ask me what I think about the new lead designer, in my conversation. You can ask me what I think about XYZ cards. What are my concerns about blah, 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 blah. What do you guys like? Just ask them. I don't care. That's the whole point is to have an open forum and for sort of me to give an unbiased opinion and just throw it out there, man. Just throw it all out there. The next sort of issue I think that I've seen talked about is often mentioned in Netrunner Dorks often is terminal directive. So I don't know what the holdup is and what the confusion is, but it's really simple to me. the idea to me is that Terminal Directive is designed to be a product, I believe, that will sort of boost sales for people coming into the game. You can combine it with Core Set and say, hey, there's a game that can be played here that is separate from having all the card packs. And so in an existing game where we're pretty much 5 years in almost, because the game came out in 2012, Gen Con 2012. So going into the fifth year of this game, it gives newer players the ability to buy in and say, I can slowly build my card pool. I can check out a neat interesting game and go from there. Another cool thing is that Terminal Directive gives us brand new cards. So it gives us sort of this hope for the future. We can look at the cards of Terminal Directive and say, hey, these are going to be cards that are going to showcase how the game is changing, how the lead design of the game is improving and making the game better. And I think that the fact that we haven't heard as much about getting it on the shelves is sort of negative. I feel like even if the cards are mostly not great, based on everyone's current understanding of the card pool, because I know people have seen the cards already. Even if the cards aren't great, it still might be nice to have fresh cards in, knowing that rotation is coming. But what I guess I don't get is all of this feels like very weirdly finagled. Like, a lot of us want rotation to happen already. It hasn't happened. So now we're waiting. The idea is that maybe the prediction is that maybe that rotation will happen coming closer. I think after Nationals, going into Worlds, which is fine. So if rotation happens then, but Terminal Directive comes out before, that means that for a little while, the card pool's huge. Like, if you think about it, going into Nationals, that is a ridiculously big card pool with not a lot changing. Which is another point I'll get to regarding the most wanted list in a second. But yeah, man, like I think that it's 200 cards, and even with 200 cards, we're not seeing the meta actually shift where cards are being removed out of it yet, and that bothers me because it means that on one side, it means that you're gonna basically have the meta not change as much because some of the very powerful cards that exist in the meta aren't being moved out. Then you're going to have these very dominant, existing strategies that only get enhanced by the good cards that are in Terminal Directive, which is scary because, I don't think what I really want to do is deal with red, NR getting even better cards. You feel me? Like, I don't think the right play here is to get a pack where, NR gets another, tier 1 card. It's like, no, I don't think they need anymore. I think they're good. I think they're fine. Unless there's some changes, to the most wanted list, I think they can chill for a bit without getting anything extra. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. Then this leads me directly into, and guys, I talk fast. I know it. Let me know if you want me to slow down. So another thing here that I think is the hot topic. That's a hot pocket topic. The MWL. The most wanted list, guys. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss the delay with the MWL. Now, I'll say this. I don't know when the most wanted list is going to drop. I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to be soon, but I honestly don't know when it's going to drop. I will say this. I have spoken with a wonderful gentleman that is incredibly pleasant named Michael Boggs. If you don't know him, he's the new lead designer of Android Netrunner. I'm kidding. Most of you already know who Michael Boggs is. Now, I don't have specific what's getting added to the most wanted list. I've seen the spoiled 4chan stuff or whatever. I've seen that. I can tell you that when I had a conversation with Boggs, he did not seem ignorant to the concerns that the community has about the existing problem cards in Netrunner. He seemed very aware, and let's just call him out. He seemed very aware of Cipher. He seemed aware of Parasite. He seemed aware of Yogg. He seemed aware of all these of Temujin. It was not a joke. The man knows and is aware. If you guys don't know, I want to make it clear. He reads Reddit. He's in everybody's group on every Netrunner group on Facebook. He's probably in STEM Slack and you don't know it, being a lurker. And then on and then on top of that, he for sure listens to podcasts. There's not something that you guys have a problem with about existing cards that he's not aware of. He is absolutely paying attention. Now, he's still a designer though. He's still going to take all the criticism as best he can and try to like he's going to try to figure out which information is someone yelling really, really loudly, which information is appropriately being yelled loudly, which information is just people being butthurt. And I hate using the term butthurt, but I said it. Corset 2, I think that's a good topic of discussion. I'll copy paste that. But basically, I'm telling you that the guy is not ignorant. The guy pays attention. And I think I want to give him a lot of credit. Let me tell you something. So real quick, just shout out to Michael Boggs. Because I've gotten the chance to really talk with him twice. Once with the Winning Agenda, once on the A&R Bad Pub. And the guy is not only super nice, he seems really sensitive to like hearing out people in the community. He seems to be really he really wants to be open. And I feel kind of like he's coming into this where there's a community that's already really unhappy with elements of the game, and they're going to be really harsh with the criticism of anything that he does. Hypercritical. So, that being said, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say, hey, I understand that you're coming into this kind of dealing with a lot of things that, aren't your fault. Like, and there's a lot of things to work on. And I really want to see how he handles the game balance. Like I think this most wanted list is going to be very telling to his approach towards, how he reviews cards, taking feedback from his playtesters, from the community, and making appropriate changes. For those of you that have seen the 4chan spoiled list, I don't know how accurate it is, but I'll say this: I saw that list. If that is accurate, I'm really, really happy. Let me tell you why. It gives me the best positive hope for the game sort of equaling out, and I think very carefully trying to solve the issues of the existing game that everyone sees at every G&K, at every tournament. I really feel like that spoiled most wanted list is actually going to be fantastic. And I don't know if all that stuff is the right, but like there was a lot of things I saw. Like I think actually the spoiled list mentioned that there might be like a different tiers or whatever. That would be interesting. Like I think that just having one influence in general isn't enough. Like I think that everyone said that at the beginning when we all heard about the most wanted list. We said, hey, adding one influence to cards is fine, but it surely isn't a fix for every card. What if a card needs more changes or needs more pips? How are you actually going to go about, making those changes? I know everyone had the theories on what they would do, but I think that might be the best path. I really want to see, how that changes everything. So I'm excited, guys. I hate to be, unrealistically optimistic. I'm usually not quite that kind of a person, but I, like you, am feeling sort of stale with parts of the game. And I really hope that most wanted list is going to spice things up when it comes out. Like I really hope that whatever form that Boggs has for that list is going to shake things up, and people are going to be really happy with it, and we're going to see some changes. Pichak said, one of the things he's most excited about with Boggs is that he sounds like he actually knows what he's talking about when he's talking about how the game plays in practice. Give me a second. I think so too. The one thing I would knock from Boggs is that, he's probably not the most competitive player in Netrunner, but if we're going to be honest, I don't think any of the lead designers for the game have been the most competitive players of the game. That just doesn't tend to be the case, which is actually a good thing, I think, to an extent. But I do get the sense that Boggs does know what he's talking about. Boggs has been on the other end, I think, as a player where he's, played the decks that he's wanted. And, he's seen the division between, all right, these are the most competitive decks in the game, and these are the things I want to play that I think are tier 1.5, tier 2, or whatever, whatever the tiers. And what he's seeing is he's playing the game, before he was a designer for Netrunner, and he's looking at it going, man, this really sucks. Like, this deck is so good. I don't really know without XYZ cards in a very specific build how I beat this appropriately, like with any sort of ease or normalcy. Like, it just feels like I have to go all in to try to beat this. And I think because of that, when a concern is brought to him about the game, about a card, and about the meta, I think that he's maybe a bit more sensitive to it. Let me preface also by saying I never felt like Damon or Lucas 100% ignored the community. I never felt like that. Because speaking with those guys, I don't think that they I never got the sense they just didn't care, ever. In fact, I got the opposite. Between Damon and Lucas, especially Damon, and like a single conversation I had with Damon basically showed me he's actually very passionate about design. He loves designing cards. He loves designing games. But I also think that there's another element of that. I think that, it takes a lot of stuff from both sides, from every side of the part of the game. I think that you have to look at the competitive community, look at what people really want to play, what's being played competitively. Listen to people yelling the loudest, but also take note of like things that you're aware that are strong that people aren't yelling about. And then sort of having your own personal tilt. What are you getting out of playtesting? What do you feel as just a player yourself? And all of that info sort of culminates into this large like logic tree, this decision that you make for the sake of card design. And I think that also you can make bad cards. You can make cards are suboptimal. And I think that's totally fine. I think you make cards that are definitely going to be like, look, no one competitive will play this card, but this helps Kit. This helps Professor. This helps this weird thing. And I think that's actually okay. I think I'm more disappointed when cards are overpowered to an extent that's obvious versus underpowered, if you will. I think that's the biggest concern. Because I feel like those are the ones that affect the most people. If a card's not powerful enough, sure, people will complain, and then you'll say, all right, let me power creep it up. But I think that when a card's too strong, it starts, from the community aspect, it starts asking a very weird question. And actually, this actually is a statement of FFG. When a card comes out that's too strong, it's not just a matter of, hey, like, this card's too strong, fact set. Like, that's not the concern. Like, I think what people start doing in the same way how, like, for example, if I have an internet service with Comcast, the internet goes down, I'm now going to question, like, the stability of the company that provides my internet service. When a card comes out that's obviously too strong, and I know that's like I know that opinion will vary on what's obvious. Sure, whatever. Like, we can talk semantics, but we're gonna be real here. I said real talk. I don't see how Cipher gets made a Cipher. I don't understand. I don't see it. I don't understand how in a group of playtesters, and I don't know how big that could be all on me. I don't know how in a group of playtesters a card like Cipher is printed without someone saying either I don't care or it's either the statement is either I don't care or the statement is that someone thought it would be fine. And that's a problem. Because it's real good. Like, it's so good that it actually negatively impacted the game. Like, and while that's not always a bad thing to be very, very good, it honestly shoehorned people to playing very specific things. And I know that everyone's going to have a difference of opinion. No, this wasn't the case. Yeah, this was the case. I think the majority opinion, if you read online, is that everyone dislikes what it did to the game. And at some point, you have to, with anything, you have to ask yourself, like, was that design appropriate? Was it right? Was it okay? Like now in hindsight, 2020, was it fine? And if it's not fine, like, I understand that FFG has insight to cards we don't see yet, and that cards may balance out as the meta goes on. I understand that you cannot have an immediate reaction to cards. But it's a concern. Like, it actually is a concern. Like, to me, there's a whole bunch of red flags on Cipher that don't make sense to me why they couldn't easily be changed. Like, the effect is obviously strong. How did it get by with one influence? How did that happen? I don't even know how that happened. Like, I don't know. No, I'm not a guy at FFG. And if FFG ever wants to answer that question, I'm sure the community would be happy to listen. The problem is that you have to communicate that to us. So we know, and it's not just conjecture and a witch hunt where we just wildly blame designers or the company as a whole. And then there's this weird, like, awkwardness between, like, the fans of the game and the creators of the game where everybody thinks that we're against each other. It's like, we're not. We're asking for answers. We're asking how. We're asking for accountability, and that doesn't mean we think you're bad at all to anybody at FFG necessarily. It just means that we're asking for accountability. To me, the biggest lesson I ever learned in life ever was the ability to say when you have made a mistake or that you have fucked up, and the inability to do that does beg question for judgment, because it means that now a mistake happens, and the concern is that you don't recognize the mistake. The concern is you don't think it's a problem, and I think that's worse than saying, okay, maybe there was a mistake made. But yeah, that's one thing. So someone asked this question, and I'm getting you guys. I see a lot of comments here. Let me just comment on things that were said. Is the ongoing rumor that someone in marketing went above their heads? I don't know. I think I heard that also through multiple channels. Here's the thing about rumors, though. The rumor mill is bad. The rumor mill is very bad. But I'm going to be real. I don't care. Because let's say I can't pinpoint one individual. Sure. It's still on FFG. Either someone in playtesting, one of the designers, someone in marketing, someone at FFG said go. So, okay, so someone said, like, at this point, I don't even want to assign any blame to one particular individual. I don't care. But, be like, hey, yeah, that was a little strong. Sorry, guys. Like, we're going to ride the car, it'll be fine. Or we're going to place it on, like, a really hard individual. We even the statement, we are hearing your concerns, and we do think there is a potential issue, but we're waiting to see, is more than what we got. So, that's the thing. So, someone did ask this question. I'm gonna read this out. It was Maui Chris. Maui. He said, question. Do you think that FFG has dropped the ball when it comes to playtesting cards? It feels like cards are getting rushed out. So let me ask you guys. To public forum, to everyone, do you think FFG is rushing out cards a bit too fast? Do you think they're dropping the ball too often when it comes to playtesting cards? So think about that for a sec. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna see what you guys say. I know there's a delay in chat, so I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna drink some water, just to wait it out a little bit. I should also add, I don't really have a end time frame in mind. Like, I don't really want to go too long, because I know no one will listen if I go too long. But I think I got another good, like, 30, maybe 20, 30 minutes in me. So, let's see. I see more people talking about the rotation. Someone's asking about how often rotation should happen. That's a pretty good question. I like it. I like it a lot. Look, I'm seeing some good opinions. Let's see. I think it's impossible to tell from RN what the fault of what is the fault of playtesters and what is the fault of developers. I 100% agree with this. I think anyone that is easily able to assign blame on any one group, unless you directly know someone at FFG, I don't know how you're making any assumption whatsoever. Like, that's the reason why I hold any, when I say like how a card got printed, I'm talking to FFG as a whole. I'm not talking to a designer, a playtester, a playtest group. Or someone in marketing, or the president. I don't care. Like, the point remains is, at some point, someone within the company or a group of people made a decision that affected this card or this cycle or this pack. Someone made that decision. It's not. I don't think you can easily pinpoint one individual, which I think, honestly, the community does way too often, which is another point I do want to talk about. You want to talk about me getting hype? That was the thing that made me so hyped, guys. I'm telling you. Okay, so it seems like the opinion for a lot of you guys is that it seems a bit fast, and that some of the cards seem like they probably should have come out maybe sooner than they should have. Because there are already better cards than them that are in the meta, and I think I agree with that as well. I feel like, I definitely feel like that very much is the case. Where there's a ton of cards that come out very, very early, and I think that they're not good enough. But I also think that that's a weird metric. Like, let me explain. There's so many good cards in the meta right now that probably need to be on the most wanted list, and there's so many cards that are going to rotate out that haven't rotated out. I think that, honestly, by having these cards that don't seem very powerful, that math will change. I think the math will change a bit as rotation happens, which is it's supposed to happen, right? Like, your card evaluation should modify as new cards and elements of the game are introduced. I don't think that you should just say like XYZ card is bad forever. If the meta dictates that a card is now better than it was a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago, then yeah, like, I think it's totally fine to have that card in there. Defense construct. Spags, don't get me started, bro. Don't get me started. I will literally wreck this whole stream. Like how? But whatever. But I think that some of these cards that are not great might actually be a little better when rotation happens, when we have more cards on the most wanted list, or however that's going to take shape, because that means that there's going to be some space made. Cards that are really good aren't going to be worth the influence. Cards that you that aren't very great are going to be better when cards rotate out, when the most wanted list changes. So I think that's actually like very appropriate. So yeah, that's pretty much my opinion. I don't think that they necessarily drop the ball. I think that they're planning for things that we don't really. They're for sure planning for things we don't see yet. That's without question. And I think that they imagine card balance is going to come from most wanted list and rotation, and as a result, the power level of cards doesn't have to be exactly what they are. I don't think that's really very appropriate, because of course we're playing in a meta where, we're playing in a meta where those cards exist, where the extras aren't really doing very much. Hello, Okran. What is going on here? That's a good question, Okran. Let me tell you what's happening. I am ranting, and I'm ranting in an open forum where people can ask me questions and just give their opinion, and I can also repeat it out and respond. Feel free to respond, and if you want to say some nice things about the community or the chat, feel free to. Someone asked me, Spags asked me, what aftershave do I wear? Irrelevant to Netrunner, but I'll tell you, I don't use an aftershave. I use a post-shave balm, because I have an incredibly sensitive face, and I can't use anything with heavy amounts of alcohol in it, or it will dry my skin out and ruin it. Just saying. Those of you that don't know. And yeah, I do care about my skin, because I don't know, I think everyone should care about their skin. Anyway, back to relevant questions. Let's see. Should rotation happen every cycle, not every 2 cycles? That's kind of hard to say. I'll say this. Rotation should have already happened. I've said this before. I said rotation should have happened before 100%. But as far as every cycle, I don't know. That's kind of rough for a game like Netrunner. What I honestly think should happen, though, is they should go just super ham. Like, I think they need to scrap a ton of stuff. I think that there needs to be a core 2. I think there needs to be a core 2. I think there needs to be rotation already happening. And also, I think that, man, I really wish out of anything else in Netrunner, like as far as like card changes goes, rotation happens. I just wish they would be more liberal with just putting cards like on a restricted or banned or most wanted list. Here's my thing. I am all for you changing or making cards legal, even just to mix the game up. This is not a popular opinion, but I have said this before on countless occasions. Let's say Shaper has been underrepresented for a long time. Like, let's say Shaper hasn't been represented in the competitive meta for a very, very, like, for a year or two. Okay? I would actually be totally fine if FFG, a week later after the 2017 Worlds, if Shaper's never played, to just straight up say, hey guys, we noticed that there's some balancing issues with Shaper where Shaper's really underrepresented. So this is what we've come up with. In addition to Shaper cards that are going to be coming out, they're going to make them better. There's some really good cards in Criminal that we're going to add to the most wanted list. Not because we think they're too strong, just because we feel like it'll help balance the game a bit more for Shaper. You can still play a good Crim deck, but it's going to be weakened a bit compared to Shaper, which helps bring that up. And I think that's fine. If you're a competitive player, number one, if you're a competitive player and you only care about playing the best deck anyway for the best choice, like picking the best choice, you honestly don't care about faction. This gets me so much, and I hope everyone gets this. The competitive players of the game for the most part, do not care about the faction, about the feels of playing that faction. They don't care. They're going to play the best competitive thing they can choose from. So it's irrelevant to them. All they really want to do is they want to make sure the game isn't completely busted. If you haven't noticed, the competitive players of the game, when the game was all IG and Wiz and so on, and CI, what do? They played IG and Wiz and CI. Like, that's what they did. They played those decks. That's what they wanted to play. They played the best deck. They gave them the best chance to win. Now, that's not their fault. They're playing the game. But I don't think... I think it's actually fine to sort of balance the most wanted list to an extent to make factions that are underrepresented a little better. And of course, Abram is always upset about Shaper because he's team no Gordy, no Gordian Blade, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, that's my 2 cents on rotation if it's too fast. I think that I care more about the most wanted list and trying to balance out the existing card pool than I do about rotation. But beyond that, if rotation is going to happen, I do think that it's fine to do every 2 cycles as long as they're updating the most wanted list, like quickly. Like, I think if you do that, it's fine. Respond quickly to the most wanted list. I don't think the size of the card pool matters as much. I think you can help balance the game with the most wanted list as opposed to just moving cards out. I did see more questions. I'm going to ask them. Someone said, how do you bring people into the game at this point before rotation? That's a real easy answer to me. I'm going to be real with you. I don't fucking think you can. That's as real as I can be, guys. I don't think you can. Without them willing to drop money down hard, I don't think you can. I'm not convinced that that's the thing that can happen. Like, we have players that are coworkers of ours that, look, they just got into the game. They really want to buy in, but I think the issue is that it's hard to tell. It's hard to ask. It's hard to actually balance out where they can justify just dropping 400 on the game immediately. It's very difficult. It's a lot. And I think you want to bring people in, but the way you do that is going to be core and like terminal directive. Actually, someone just said this. Patrick Dennis just said this. Core and terminal directive seems like the best way to do it. Oh, and also John Wesley said this. Things like the 1-1-1-1 format are great for this. Actually, the players in question I'm referring to that are new to the game, that's how we got them in, was the 1-1-1-1 format where they can pick and choose out of someone else's giant card pool, and we got some interesting ideas out of that. Like, to me, those are the best ways to do it. I don't think you can do it just with the base game anymore. I think it's very difficult. I think FFG also knows this. I think for the most part they've tapped into their existing card pool. And something else that, internal chat with me and people that I talk to in the game, we all acknowledge, like, it's like every day I see someone's entire set of Netrunner going up for sale on Netrunner Dorks. Now, I don't know what FFG is showing for like new sales, but for like core set, but it can't be a lot. Because I feel like every time someone goes out, it's someone that comes in, and almost at the same pace. Maybe they're seeing growth, and obviously I don't have those numbers. There's no way for us. There's no way for us to know. But I don't think it's a thing like I don't think it's a thing like they're getting a whole bunch of new players. So I think that's the issue. I think that terminal directive and core set is how they meant to do it, and by not having terminal directive, it's hurting new players being at it. My personal recommendation, because it has worked for us, is to use the quad 1 format, and that way a lot of people can pull from one card pool, and that may help. Someone asked in relation to Core 2, how would you make Core 2 work for original adopters? Strictly reprints, no card changes. I think the easiest thing to do is that for Core 2, I don't think they should make brand new cards. Like, let me make that clear also to you guys. I don't think they should make maybe they could, but I don't think they should make entirely brand new cards. I think this would be sort of rough because they haven't done this before. If it was me, I would take a look at the core set and say, what's too strong? What isn't strong enough? Blah, 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 blah. Make those changes and either do one of two things. A, reprint a core set 2.0 that will be the new versions of those cards. And then B, make an errata for all existing cards that with the same name. So that those cards now do the new Core 2 thing. This way, and again, maybe not the best way to do it. Maybe not the best way to do it. But I feel like doing that option, while still costing FFG money, provides the players the ability to decide if they want to buy the brand new Core 2. You don't have to, because the cards already have an errata. But maybe you don't want to deal with having the errata at hand at every time. Maybe you just kind of want the new Core 2 version that has amazing art that they could do, because they do that anyway. Maybe all the Core 2 cards are full bleed art to make it enticing to purchase. They're already doing this anyway with the World Champ decks. And also, by the way, I say that as a means to just basically tell you, one of the things I've heard as a reason for why they don't want to, the reason why they may not want to reprint like Core 2 with brand new like words is that the cards are already printed. Yeah, but that doesn't help you. That doesn't help the explanation for you reprinting the tournament decks, though. I get that it's a way to honor the tournament winners, fantastic. But in that regard, I'm already buying copies of cards I already have, right? Like that, nothing changes between that. Like in this case, I'm actually buying effectively new cards because they actually have new text on them. They may be the reprint of the card that exists, but they actually serve a brand new purpose that they previously did not serve, with new text on the card for the errata. So I do like the concept of printing a Core 2 set if that's a thing. I don't know if that's true. I haven't heard anything about that being a real thing besides the rumors that everyone else has heard. They could also do a thing where they just simply say brand new Core 1, no errata, but cards are gone or cards are added from like sets that are getting rotated out. Now that would be interesting. Like if they take cards that are rotating out and put them in Core 1 and other bad cards that are really not cards that aren't played often, like Lumeria Code Cracker, right? Like no one plays Lumeria Code Cracker. No one plays no one really plays Infiltration anymore. Like cards like that. Actually, Infiltrations I think is really important to new players, so maybe that stays. But like cards like Lumeria Code Cracker, like they can go in favor of other cards that can go in from like for sets that are getting rotated out. I think that is the way to handle it. I think that's the best way. So sorry if I went a lot of different directions. Man, there's so many of you guys. I did not expect 52 people to get online and listen to a random dude on the internet rant and discuss Netrunners. So I just want to say, while I have this many people in here, thank you guys so much for being here. Like I'm not leaving yet, obviously, but thank you. Like it means a lot that you guys are here. And you're cool enough to just stay and listen to people like talk about the game. Thank you. I love it. I love you guys. Someone asked me the question: what's your favorite card combo? And don't say para, Cipher for the love of Pete, for the love of God. No. Believe it or not, my favorite card combo is actually very basic, and it's basically from Core Set because it was my favorite thing ever. I love modded and anything with Kate. Kate modded in any hardware program. That feels good every time. Like that feels fantastic every fucking time. When you have a card that costs, I know Cipher fits in there for this, but when you have a card that costs 5 and Kate and modded make it cost 1, feels good. When you're playing Kate and using Desperado, like, and you've already installed the other card you want and you modded it for free, feels good. Like that never doesn't. There's never a time when that doesn't feel good. I love taking that card, and I used to love, back when I played Core Set. Again, this is sort of lame because we're talking, old school, right? But I used to love playing Toolbox. Like I used to love having Kate and having Toolbox and having this what I thought was an amazing console. And having things like Magnum Opus, and just saying like Magnum Opus cost me 1, and then I can just click and gain money, and then the next modded I can immediately play Toolbox. So now I've got this crazy like setup. Like I love modded Kate anything. Like I just love that as a card combo. I like Career Fair and any resource also, obviously, like that's that's also in the same vein. But just modded and Kate and putting a program in there is just very cool. Someone also asks, uh, actually, I'm gonna open the floor a little bit here. I've been talking really loudly. Uh, does anyone have additional questions? I have some saved up, but I want to ask you guys. Actually, tell me about here's a question for everybody. So, because this question happened to me, came out actually, for me. What do you guys think about Core 2? Do you think that Core 2 is a necessity if they do rotation and they do a most wanted list? And I don't know if everyone has seen the most wanted list spoilers, but yeah, if you guys have seen the most wanted list spoilers, and you know that rotation is coming, do you think that a Core 2 is necessary at this point? Do you think that, what form do you think it would take? Because I'm actually interested in what everyone else thinks. Because even though I have my personal opinion, I have no clue. I hope that it's actually a reprint. That would be amazing. I would love full bleed core cards. I would love it. Like, if they did that, it would be sweet. It would be so sweet. Let's see. Because I don't know, Core 2 to me would be interesting only because I know that it sort of gives them a redo button that isn't just like the Netrunner reboot. You know, it's not. Whereas Game of Thrones, you know, Game of Thrones stuck with what it had and had a restricted list, and then eventually, you know, after so many years, they hit the reboot button. I don't think Netrunner's at the reboot button stage. I think they're gonna squeeze, you know, what, 4 or more years, 3 or 4 more years out of Netrunner before they even consider the reboot button. So if that's the case, they have to figure out, you know, the possible solution to the game that is within the existing card pool. And I think that would be interesting. I think that would be the best way to do it. Excuse me. Yeah, good. I'm looking at you guys' opinions on this. This is interesting. I like it. A lot of you guys. Yeah. So yeah, like for example, Chris, Chaz Howman. I apologize if I mispronounced your name, man. Chaz said, no, I'm pro core 2, a reprint / errata for core plus rotated cards. Yeah, I think that would be really good. I think that's a great way to do it's a lot of work, but I think that's a lot of work. But I think that it actually ultimately can maybe be the most refreshing part of the game. I think so. I think it would do a lot. What do we got? We got Jean, my friend Jean, says that he doesn't think that full bleeds will be for core because it sets up new players with a bad expectation. That's possible. I think there's a way to also to spin it so they know, so that, you know, newer players are aware Netrunner has like a base core set, but there's a reprint that's core 2 and it's sort of special. Like for example, what game does this? It's oh goodness, what is it? It's Ascension. Like Ascension sort of does this, and I know that's a much different game, obviously, but Ascension has like they print their core set and then the expansions that work with the core base, right? But then they have like the collector's edition that comes out at the end of that year or 2-year like period, and that new edition is playable with the expansion cards, but has alt art for the core set. So, you know, like if you're paying attention, you know, you kind of get the best of both worlds if you want. You can, if you're a newer player, you actually sort of get advantage because existing players may decide, I don't really want to pay for, you know, the extra full bleeds. They don't have to. Like their benefit is that they've already paid for the core 1. But newer players may get an advantage where they, you know, a cool little neat thing. They can get the full bleed. So it's possible to do, but I see the aspect of it. I do. I see where it may give a bad precedent. Patrick Dennis bringing like the serious questions. Let me save him some stuff. And Mario Chris, man, you guys are on it. Goodness, let me get these out here before it's too late. So many questions. But it's good. It seems like the majority of you guys are pro core 2, and I think that's positive. And I think that's positive, and I think that I think it would be good for the game for sure. I think it would absolutely be great Um, sorry, let me reiterate. I think Core 2 is great with rotation plus an aggressive most wanted list. Like anything that gives them more power to change the game throughout X amount of years before they eventually do the full reboot. Because can we be honest, it's probably gonna happen, right? Like in the next 5 years, I think there will be a reboot in Netrunner. I think so. I think Netrunner was probably more successful than Game of Thrones 1, and that got a reboot. I don't see why Netrunner would not get a reboot. I feel like even if everyone left Netrunner right now and they said there's a reboot 5 years later, the majority of you would be right here in this like YouTube channel with me, excited for the reboot. At least I hope you would be. That would make me so happy. Let me get some questions answered here from my perspective. So someone asked, someone asked, how do I feel about regionals with coming up with the packs we have? Well, number one, we don't know when they're happening, but I don't think we do yet. But this is how I feel. I think that my feeling on regionals will greatly vary depending on the next most wanted list. And so I guess let me answer right now. Not knowing changes, not knowing what's going to happen, I'm not happy. And also, Raishin, excuse my language, bro, fuck you for talking about Lycan. Every time you talk about Lycan, I get so one of the worst pieces of Ice in Netrunner. Like, actually one of the worst. I bet most of you don't even know what Lycan is or what it does, but it's actually really, really bad. It's garbage. It's actually bad. It's actually horrible. It's so bad. Sorry. But yeah, like I think that if I were to ask right now, the question of what I think about regionals coming up with the current packs, I don't think these packs really add anything to a lot of decks that are going to be playing Netrunner. Like these last two packs don't really add a lot, which means that I can kind of just say the existing meta that's been there is probably going to still be the dominant one. I'm hoping to God that whatever happens in the most wanted list is going to be the thing that changes the game up for sure. That will be what makes me really, really happy. I think a lot of people agree with this. I think that you guys know these last two packs have been less than stellar. Every review that I've done and that I've heard about these two packs has been lackluster. Maybe one or two cards are usable, but it's pretty bad. Like, there's no like these. I don't think these packs do much to change the meta at all. I could be wrong. Like watch actually in a month when the third pack comes out, people are like, yeah, there's this new card combo that works with this card you thought was bad. Which happens a lot, guys. You'd be surprised how often that happens actually. So yeah, that's my opinion on that. Next question. Seeing Wayland stuff, do you feel they're clawing back or is it already too late? No, I don't think so, actually. I think that they've changed direction. I think that FFG is taking Rush Harder? What do you mean? I think FFG is taking a long, hard look at Wayland and like what is part of their color pie. Now they may already have it figured out, but I think that we're about to see a lot of cool stuff. Jimison seems like the new real meal deal, if you will. Like I think that actually is going to be something, and I think it's because Fast Advance has always been pretty good in Netrunner, and I think that with the meta changing, Wayland is getting the option to do it pretty effectively. I think we're only maybe a card or two away from Jimison being like amazing. I feel like maybe I'm a little optimistic here, but I feel like it's a card or two away from being like that combo that you just did is kind of nuts. Like if you get rolling, I don't know what I can do. Like I have to run the clot and stuff like that. Like it's pretty hard. So I'm interested. I want to see if if that works. Man, that's hard. Wayland is such a tough nut to crack because I think that's been plagued since after Plascrete, which basically is the base game and then the first pack. Like I think that after that we definitely saw like an issue where Wayland was having some problems. And I think it's always really been a tough nut to crack, and I think it's because they rationalized that the ability to Scorch in faction is a very powerful ability, Scorch and Boom. And I don't disagree. I think it is very powerful, but I also think that you can't punish them too harshly everywhere else because of it. because it's pretty obvious that it's not good enough, right? So, yep, it's pretty obvious that it's not good enough. Let me see. Instant speed answers. Everyone just wants me to get very quick to to the Damon situation, which I did say I'm gonna get to, but I'm gonna make it my finale because I know that's gonna be the hype one, and the one that makes me start maybe cussing at people. So then we have do you think deluxe boxes should be added to rotation? That's also very complicated because I feel like a lot of core of the game, the boxes were meant to be built to support the shortcomings of certain factions. And I think that by removing them, it means they have to make more big boxes, which I honestly feel is more designed than they want to put forward anymore like that. Because that's a lot of cards, right? So I'm happy with big boxes staying if they aren't busted. I do think as long as big boxes are held up, and I mentioned this before, as long as big boxes are held up to the same standard as every other card that can be added to the most wanted list, I think it's fine. I think that if you're able to say a card in a big box is bad, a card in a big box is bad, and it needs to be either banned or added to the most wanted list or stuff like that, I would say that that's fine. Like I think that you still want to hold the same like balance of power like every other card. I'm fine with the big boxes staying though. I don't really feel like they're necessarily broken. Now, Data and Destiny is an exception. I think it's Data and Destiny. It's very good. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Data and Destiny has GFI. Is that correct? I think GFI was Data and Destiny. Actually, let me look it up since I have the power of the internet in front of me. But I think GFI is very, very good. And that is sort of that's sort of a problem. Yeah, it is Data and Destiny. And in general, there's some other good ambient cards that are in Data and Destiny that I like and don't like. Like Archangel is very strong. I don't think it's overpowered. I think it's strong. And in general, I think I want Data and Destiny to remain. And looking at it, because the mini factions are very cool. They're very, very cool. I do think that and this ties into a question someone just asked. They asked if there should be a 5th corp faction. I'm gonna answer that with no. Let me tell you why. It's too much, man. It's too much. I think at this stage of the game, it'd be really hard to introduce a corp faction without it being like all in on a lot of tools. And I guess the question I would have to ask is, what is it doing? Like, I feel like they've sort of covered, like, all right, one faction sort of does fast advance and some damage and different kinds of damage better than others. Other faction does this, like, has this niche. They would have to really, like, figure out, like, what pie that faction would take that the other factions don't. And that would be it. Like, if you look at the mini factions, the reason why they have 25 influence is because I don't think they have their own significant pie, if you will. Like, sure, they all have their unique gimmick, kind of, but it's not like the thing they do isn't as prominent as the thing Anarchs do, or that Shapers do, or that Crims do, right? Like, Sunny LeBeau is not gonna make runs like Crim. She's not gonna like utilize programs like Shaper. She's not going to, have this sort of destructive concept like Anarch. That's not what she does. So in order to balance out her having a limited card pool, but on top of that, not really having as big as a pie as far as options for what they've explored, they gave her 25 influence to help with that. And I think that's why. That's why I don't think we'll see a fifth faction. I'm sorry, Patrick. I've been skipping this question because I keep getting sidetracked. But Patrick asked, which is quick firing these questions. He asked me, do I think the meta was better affected? Well, do I think the meta was better or healthier when MBN was housing NEH or with CTM? And which do I feel is better for the game? That is super controversial, and I think I'm going to have a difference of opinion. So, man, this one actually floors me a bit. Because the reason why is because I'm comparing them now with one significant change. And do you know what that significant change is? It's Astro. At the time where I saw NEH be at its most dominant, Astro was pretty much a 3x include. And that made NEH a very clear reason, like multiple Astros, right? We all experience that part of the game. So I think Fast Advance definitely took a hit because of that, and I think that hurt. And then of course Wizard. Sorry, I should have said Wizard was also very good, obviously, but I felt like there were times where just because of the speed of NEH, you could actually race Wizard and be fine. Limiting Astro to 1x changed that dramatically, and that makes it difficult now because when you evaluate CTM's plan is different than just simply trying to score that way. And I think that if I'm comparing both those worlds, I'll say this. A lot of people were around for NEH before Clot, and they remember what do I do? What can I do? I can't play the source. What can I actually do? So people played against NEH before Clot. I don't think I had less fun playing CTM in the existing meta, or the pre Aaron Moran meta. I don't think I had less fun then versus when I had the meta where it was Astro chaining as heavily. I think actually I had the least amount of fun at that point against NEH, against NBN. I think that was to me the worst part of it. And that was because it felt like there really was not a lot I could really do. I think that obviously Aaron Moran is very similar to kind of the Clot, and that's Aaron Moran's obviously very it is actually a hammer to the problem, which is a different conversation. But I'm gonna go in a limb and I'm gonna say that I think that CTM is actually better for the game than NEH, but that's at its peak. That was at its peak. Is it better? So I think so. That's hard. That was a really hard question, Patrick. Thank you. You guys, what are your opinions? To you, what was worse? Was right now, if you look at the meta where every existing card is in, including Aaron, is it CTM or NEH? Okay, now remove Aaron. Is it CTM or NEH? All right, now remove the Astro limit. Is it CTM or NEH? That's tough. Because I will say there's interactions between both decks depending on what runner I'm playing that I liked, but there was also interactions where I don't really know. I don't think it just wasn't fun. Let me take a look here. I may have missed some questions. I apologize. It's been a while since we've seen a new mechanic like currents. Would you like to see more new ones? Yes. Hello? I would love that. I think there's a ton of design space in Netrunner they have not explored, they haven't touched on yet. Currents are meant to sort of be these weird enchantments, sort of, kind of. I would love to see. I actually want to see more cards like currents, that are used. But I mean, they also have enchantments effectively in Netrunner already, in the form of resources and hardware. It makes it difficult to really want more cards like that. I wish that we saw more cards that do things to ice. I know that sounds really stupid because so far the cards that we have aren't very good, I don't think, for ice. But I would love to see some cards that do more things with ice. I would love to see, for example, a card that straight up says and when I say do things to ice, I mean can be attached to ice. I think that's something I would enjoy. I'm not sure if it would be good or not. Probably not. But I mean, still interesting. I would love to see a card that says this ice gets +2 strength and it's +2 strength and its strength can't be lowered. Self-adapting subroutine or something. I don't know, because we already have a self-adapting wall. Cards like that are interesting because imagine taking your great, your toll booth or this amazing piece of ice you enjoy and just say it's immune to parasite and it's stronger. Get wrecked, got you. That to me, that's kind of a neat idea. You could just play another piece of ice, but I like that. I like having the option. I think there's a point where you can make a card that you can attach to ice be as good as simply installing another ice, because then you get the mechanic there is that you don't pay an install cost. It's automatically active, but the runner sees it immediately. It changes the game a little bit that way. Like, I like stuff like that. I think they're moving towards the direction in cars like wet work refit, but that still doesn't feel good enough. So, and maybe they're scared of it. Like, maybe make I hate to say this, but maybe like an attachment that is a limit 1 per piece of ice that can only be overridden by another attachment. And basically, you take it, you host it on a piece of ice, the ice gains something amazing that isn't just like overset AI. I think that's very cool. I would love to see that. But yeah, I don't know. Like maybe it's a pipe dream. And is it wet work refit? I don't know if that's the right card. It's stuff like stuff like patch, where patch isn't great, but I think that patch isn't great because it's not aggro, like it's not good enough. Like I feel like for cards like that, they're not good enough. All right, bump them a little bit. How far can you go before they break? Before they just ruin the game? Like if someone is playing a wall of static, all right, well sure that like sucks. Or sorry, a wall of static is like, yeah, whatever. Okay, well now you've attached something that gives wall of static a trash or program subroutine and +2 strength or +3 strength. Now maybe we can talk. Like what kind of, like, is that good? And maybe does the runner need cards now to handle attachments? Like how good is that? I think it's cool. The negative is that there's deck slots in Netrunner are very limited, so it makes that idea kind of hard, and I get that. That's me. Yeah, sub boost is not whatever. That is, I think I asked all the questions that people. Those are the questions. I think those are all the questions that I have. Let me. I'm about to go into the big one, the big convo. But before I want to ask before I get there, were there any questions anyone had? Did anyone want to hear a perspective or talk about something that I haven't already talked about? Raishin, a current that counts down would be interesting. I like that. That would be neat. Or some card like that. That would be neat. I'm gonna give you guys some time. I know that there's a little bit of a delay. So I'll let you guys go. Man, I can't. Again, I'm floored because there's 47 of you. Man, you guys are awesome. Carne asada or pollo in my burrito. I hope I don't fit a stereotype. But I really love chicken. I love chicken burritos. There's also a price concept here. Like I feel like a lot of places the steak isn't even great quality, but they like overcharge for it anyway, just because it's steak. I'm like, what are you doing? Like that's not even worth me paying extra. Get out of here. So I generally go with like the chicken. How do I feel about doing commentary for ATL regionals? If I do commentary for ATL regionals, let me tell you what will happen. Number one, it'll make me the happiest man alive. Because I love talking and I love the production of PChack. Like I know that everyone, I've said this before publicly. It is probably the single coolest thing I've ever done in Netrunner. Like no question. So shout out to PChack. There's actually a lot of people to shout out, but I'll do that at the end of this. But yeah, it's single-handedly the best thing. If you guys don't already view PChack videos, you should. They're phenomenal. Ben and his team in Atlanta put in a lot of effort, a lot of work, and this is sweat, and this is just love. Like this is just them. They enjoy the game and want to talk about it, and this is what they want to do. But yeah, and also if I didn't get to do commentary in Atlanta, I would just play the game. Like I still love playing. I just don't do it as often anymore because I don't have as much fun. Like that's just the truth. Neutral runners needed 30 influence to be viable and organize. Play your thoughts. I don't know. Like neutral runners, as you know, any runner that needs 30 influence. Influence is weird in Netrunner only because it's such a viable resource because you never know what can of worms you open up by providing a hefty amount of influence for one faction. Like imagine if they just had a runner that had like no blank ability, like no ability. It was completely blank, no benefits. 35 influence. I think their concern would be over time enough almost broken things come out that now you can influence and do something they really didn't intend for you to do, and that can be problematic. That's why we see this sort of weird play with the existing like mini factions where they do a little something that's unique, have a little extra benefit that's just theirs, and then they get a fair amount of influence because they're not that strong within what they do. I think that's actually the right way to do it. Too much influence will create an imbalance that way, I think, because now you have these ridiculous like things. Talking about you're talking about draft or with the mask. That's a little different. That's a little different. My favorite color. You mean? Let me clarify, Geminette. When you say my favorite color, are you saying faction or are you saying like actual color in real life? But while I wait on that, someone asked a question. I missed it. Talk about how people still whine about asset spam when it's not even good at all. I mean, that does happen. That does happen. But I also think it's because if you're not prepared for it, it sucks. Question: what card are you going to create when you win Worlds this year? Here's the thing, guys, about me being a competitive player. So it's no secret. Everyone knows this. It's sort of funny, but I'll talk about it. It's sort of this is about me, and I apologize if it's a little hammy. I love playing the game competitively, but I'm going to be real. I have no desire whatsoever to be the absolute best player in Netrunner. I have every desire to be a good player in Netrunner. And I'm totally content if I will never, ever be the best. Let me tell you why. A lot of times the best players have to spend a lot of time of their personal time playing the game and discussing the game at a high level. I made a comment in STEM Slack one time that this may be the last year that I am very active in the community. Now, that may or may not be the case. It depends on how the game changes with rotation and all that stuff. But the truth is that making content, guys, takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. Now, I know people can just say, well, just don't do it as often. But I love it. But it's a labor of love, and it does take a lot of time. The discussions that happen before the cast take 30 minutes to an hour. The recording takes about an hour to 2 hours. Then there's editing. Now, I personally don't do editing, but I know the people that do, and it takes a lot of time. So I'll put it this way. I know people that play the game 5 times a week, 10 times a week, and they maybe spend 4 or 5 hours playing a week. Okay, well, I talk about the game for 4 or 5 hours a week. And that's not me playing. So when I look at like the things that I do in the game for being, being a podcast and doing stuff like that, like I love doing it, but it's also the matter of I very much, even though I love what I do, I have to balance out, other things that happen in my life that I enjoy doing alongside playing and alongside enjoying other things. For those of you who don't know, man, I play a ton of board games and a ton of video games. I'm 80 hours into Mass Effect. I'm 80 hours into Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm about to start Persona 5. I play a board game or try to play a board game at least once to twice a week with a group of guys. And that board game is usually not a week board game. That usually is like a 3-hour board game session. Like my time gets super limited. And so as a result, like playing a game like Netrunner, and staying at a high level, it's hard. Like I have to actually subtract time from other things that I do enjoy to do it on top of the podcast. So I think that the amount of time it takes to be the best at the game for some people, if you've got that time, go for it. If you've got all the time in the world for a Jinteki and that's what you want to do and you're happy with that, I think it's totally fine. Do that stuff. But I think there's also a level where you can say, I just want to be good. I just want to be good at the game, be sort of recognized or be one of the better players that I can hang. I want to be at that top level. And I think that's totally fine. I love that. I'm not saying that I'm even really at that level. I just like being good enough to, to hold my own. I'm not just going to get completely destroyed. I love that. So, yeah, that's it. Like, I just, that's my feeling on like being like, on the winning world situation. I'll probably never win worlds, but at the same time, I feel like Noel is my spirit animal. And while I don't think Noel was based off me, I think Damon mentioned that Noel was based off a nephew he has. In my heart, it's always been about me. Him and Ronald 5, both those cards are about me. And as long as I keep thinking that, It makes it real, right? Do I think that the given big boxes are here to stay? Do I think semi-good IDs like Next Design might get support they need to see play? And yes, that's what I think is the benefit of the big boxes staying. Is I think that what will happen. I think that what will happen with it is that they will allow themselves to go back to the drawing board for IDs that are underrepresented to kind of and to give those more support. I would love to see more support for cards like Next Design. And this isn't because I think it's even good. It's because I think that adds spice and life to the game for all kinds of players. Imagine having a card like Next Design that's never been good, and then all of a sudden on the competitive level, the card's amazing. And as a new player level, an ID that everyone sort of like doesn't really like becomes good because it's a flavor that you enjoy. That feels good and it's interesting. Like I mentioned earlier, competitive players are going to play the best thing anyway, right? If they're going to play the best thing anyway, what's wrong with it being Next Design? Like, what's wrong with it being Next Design? If they can make it great, let them make it great. Let them go back to the drawing board, make great cards for it, and call it a day. I know it's really easy to look at like the ID, especially in a vacuum, and say not very good, doesn't have right support. Of course not. It doesn't have support. If they somehow find ways to support it, that's awesome. Like that means the world. Like you make a card that's never touched, like be great. Give them the opportunity. Like I think it's totally fine. Letting the IDs exist in the game are good. I think that's actually a really positive thing. I wish I will say that though, yes. If I was able to print a Netrunner card, I probably would try to do everything I could to have it called Real Talk. That would be amazing. Favorite board game mechanic. I love storyboard games, and I hate to say this, but I actually love board games that aren't games. That's gonna sound really, really, really fucking stupid. I know you guys are gonna hate that shit. One of the best games I've ever played that I love the most is Time Stories. Because I feel like that game is just a plot. It's an interactive plot, and I love that. There's a mobile game that I enjoy. It's technically a game called Burial. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Love it. It's for mobile, called Burial. Love it. Just because I like story, and I like interactive stories. Deep down, I think a lot of people like interactive stories. That's the reason why they like Let's Plays. Because they get to experience the game, watch it, enjoy what's happening in it, and they don't have to actually put any effort to moving the controller. But Time Stories are very good, as well as Seafall. Seafall is very good. I love Seafall, which is an actual interactive game, but I freaking love Seafall. Let me see what else. All right, guys, I'm gonna put a pause on all the other. I'm gonna put a pause on all the extra, and I'm gonna get to, I guess, the main topic. The main topic of the evening, which is, I think it's the one that everyone wanted me to talk about because it is so controversial and it's new. And this is sort of, this is sort of the reason why I wanted to do what I'm doing, is because I want the ability to, when something controversial comes up and I think that everyone's being tight-lipped about it or they don't want to discuss it, I also want to jump in and have the convo about it, because I actually like having those convos. So yeah, That's pretty much. We're just gonna go right in. So, for those of you that missed it, what happened earlier this week is that there was a discussion in Netrunner Dork started by Benjamin Terrell. Way to go, Ben! Way to like ruin Netrunner for everybody. All right. So what happens is in that thread, and if you haven't read it, it's fine. You can. I'm going to summarize it anyway. It's up to you. What happened in that thread is Ben made a statement about the card O2 shortage. I'm not going to even talk about what the card does. It's irrelevant. But effectively, it's I guess I need to talk about it. O2 shortage effectively allows you the ability to gain an extra click as the corp. You gain an extra click as the corp, but the negative is that it gives the runner an out. It says they can take a net damage at random to take the net, take one net. Otherwise, you gain a click as the corp. Now, someone, I apologize, sir, I can't remember your name. They were pretty reasonable. Like, they do what I would do in any card review. They said, hey, in a meta where like bodic labor exists, I don't see why. Sorry, Ben, if I'm mistaken on that detail, I apologize. But they said, like, in the meta where biotic labor exists, I don't see why I would ever play O2 shortage over body labor. Like, as far as gaining a click, it's obviously less effective in gaining a click because it gives the runner an out. And reasonably, generally one net damage is not impactful enough to change the tempo of the game for the corp. So if one net damage isn't impactful enough, what is the point of me actually using this card over a card like body labor? Now, I think that is a fair criticism when looking at body labor, for sure. I think it's a fair criticism. Because if we're talking about just getting a click, yeah, like I don't really rational. I understand how Netrunner works. I don't see why. I don't see why I would ever play it over something like body labor. So what transpired is a lot of differing opinions, or some differing opinions, where people were talking about possible usages of the card and how it can be implemented, and why they supported that it's not really wise to play a card like it versus body labor. Well, then we got a response, of course, from Netrunner's formerly designer, which was Damon Stone, who who chimed in about the card. He obviously was part of that design team for that card, and he said, "Hey guys, like there's a value here in the card that I don't think everyone quite gets." And I'm summarizing, I'm paraphrasing. Of course, I know that whenever. Let me put it on the table. I know that by summarizing and paraphrasing this, that I may not be giving the full scope of what is being said, but I'm trying to get the sentiment taken from the conversation. If you want the actual full bled thing that was said, go read it. Like it's available online. No one's deleted it. It's there. It has 100 and some comments. It's really not hard to find. But effectively, Damon's sentiment was the card has a value that I don't think you guys are quite really seeing in the same way that I am. There was some criticism on, I'm going to be real, what I saw criticism on his judgment or his evaluation of the card, and why maybe it's not appropriately costed in terms of how you provide it, make it a usable card. He came back in stating that, guys, there's, I guess hammering home the point that there is this intrinsic value. I think it came off to I think it did come off to people that it was being fairly condescending, and as a result, the opinions for ended up being fairly negative, where people were actually asking him, hey, what's going on? Can you please explain why XYZ reasons to change this card wouldn't be good? Can you explain why you thought this card as is would be good, and so on and so forth. And I'm trying to get to it myself, so I can be a part of the mess that was that thread. And so of course then you had people saying hey, I don't understand why you how are you being condescending about this? What do you mean? What is it that you see that we aren't getting? And things like that. Which I totally understand completely. Correct me if I'm wrong. If anybody in chat, for the record, if anybody in chat thinks I am not giving the right details here, if for whatever reason I'm not being thorough enough in my explanation as to the sentiment behind what is being said, tell me, and I will actually stop and go read the damn thing. Because I don't want anyone at the end of the day to come back at me and say, hey, Hollis, I don't think you really represented it in the correct light. Do not want that to happen. So, want to make sure. I'm going to actually give it a second to wait for the chat. Because I don't want anybody to say that I misrepresented details or downplayed it, because I'm not downplaying it. I'm trying my best to summarize it. Just waiting. Letting the chat catch up a little bit. Reading. Okay, Abram. All right, Abram, I see you. He said, you're okay. You're okay. Thanks, bro. Someone posted the link. Wow. All right. That's fine. Yeah. But yeah, everyone says I'm okay. All right. Okay, so yeah, everyone agrees that what I'm saying is basically a good summary. So Damon's defending the card and saying that, hey, this card has a value that I don't think you guys are really getting. It does synergize with other cards that exist. And then because of this, the feedback from the community was like, hey, like, Damon, really this card isn't that great. What's the value that you see in this card that we're not seeing? These are the changes we think would make it great, or well, maybe could have made it better and possibly more playable. And the Damon's going, well, hey, like, I think someone mentioned brain damage, and to Damon it was obvious that brain damage would have been too strong. Everyone disagreed that brain damage as a specific like topic of conversation would be too strong. And things like that. And then I'm actually going to say exactly what Patrick Dennis said. So he said he tried to fight back, and it turned into a huge no you fight. Okay, so here we go. Let me address everybody. So this is actually the serious real talk of the night. I'm cussing people out. Here we go. Taking off my shoes for this to get comfy. Here's the thing. To FFG, there are players that understand the game better than you do. I'm so sorry. But you had to know this was going to happen. This happens all the time in Magic. Do you know what they do for those people? They hire them. I'm not saying that necessarily need to hire anybody that's a player. I'm saying that it is a point of information. It's a fact that the players of your game that are fanatical know more about the game than some of the people that help design the cards, that play test the cards. Now, I understand that there's nothing you can do about that. You have no hand in whatsoever in people that are really fanatical about the game and they want to design their own cards and things like that. But it's actually fine if they do get the game better than you. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, if anything, that's a positive thing. Let me tell you, and the reason, I keep saying let me tell you why, it's my thing, but the reason why that's actually good is because those are the people that you should be getting feedback from. Those are them. The people that are actually like, I guarantee you there's somebody out there that has designed 50, 100, 200 cards, that has looked at every card you've crafted or came up with in playtest or has been printed, and they said this card would be good if XYZ things were the case. This card would be different and more interesting if XYZ things were the case. Now, that is not me knocking any existing card design, because in my personal opinion, barring my unhappiness with the existing meta, I feel as on the whole, you guys have made something that I love, and I really, really appreciate it. I'm not only thankful, I'm happy with the IP. I'm happy with the actual game. With the game. I'm not happy with the meta, but I'm happy that a game like this exists. And if you can look at a game like Magic, and I know everyone hates it when you say the Magic word. If you can look at a game like Magic where they've hired people the same way how you've hired Boggs, right? That knew a lot about the game, that now work for FFG, aka Louis Scott Vargas as an example, and a ton of other people. He's just like extremely recognizable, right? If you look at a ton of people that are hired in some capacity to work for Magic the Gathering, they're really knowledgeable people. They're really passionate about the game, that love the game, and they want to improve it and design cards for it, or be a part of the commentary or the community. Like, that's what they do. And I don't think it's a great thing to be super dismissive about every voice telling you that they disagree with the card choice. Now, hold on. Here's the rub. I don't agree that you should listen to everyone. And I get the situation you're in, because you can't fucking listen to everybody. Not everybody knows what the hell is good. Sometimes people hop on bandwagons and they're just shouting really loudly. And while they've made their point isn't convincing. And when you tell them, sorry, your point's not convincing, they shout louder as if it's going to change your mind. Yeah, that's not good either. I think it's actually a negative aspect of the community. That means that you unfortunately are at the mercy of finding that balancing act. Like figuring out what is just the loud community and what's the right, like, response. Because it won't always be easy. I mean, it's really easy for everyone to shout Cipher's bad. Really easy for everybody. To shout that Cipher's too good, right? But you have to actually look at it yourself and say, oh, hold on, card evaluation. Is this too good? Is it too? I don't know really what people think. That's what matters. like I said, I totally get the difficulty that you guys are under in trying to make that kind of evaluation. Here's something else. Knowing that players know a lot about the game, and some players may know more about the game and great design than you because they are such fans and they are so fanatical about it, or at very least are equal with you. It is not good to portray the idea that the group of people who obviously don't know what's coming don't get it. Even if the sentiment is that, even if you're not attempting to be condescending, because I think that's what I've heard. Even if you're not attempting to be condescending, I think that because you're in the public eye and that you are on the internet where people have that veil of anonymity and they can easily be jerks for no reason, right? You still have to sort of be like, wait and see, or be able to deliver the information in a way that doesn't make them feel dumb. And I know it sounds really rude on either side, but there's a communication. Like, there's a way to communicate. And I'm only talking about your side, FFG. Like, I'm not even talking about... I'm going to get to the community. Oh, boy. Like, there is a way to communicate in a way that doesn't come off as condescending. And I get how when you get berated over and over and over about... And like, your design choices being questioned... Hell yeah, you're going to get fucking pissed off. Who would not get pissed off? I don't know a single person that would go to work and if they try to do their job, someone's always critiquing them, that they're not getting upset and like annoyed. And that's triggering a response. Like anyone at all that is a human being does that. Like, and to me, this is the fucking difficult part. Is everyone knows this? Every single person from FFG and from the community side knows this, but everybody's acting like fucking kids. Okay? So so on the FFG side, it's just really good communication with people, even if they disagree. It's fine. Let them disagree. Like, really good communication, like, to the player base in a way that is soft. And I hate to say this, but unfortunately, even if outside looking in, I was reading Damon's statements to me appeared like he was just tired of being berated after a certain like conversation began, and then it just kind of got to the point where the responses became an annoyance. Now, unfortunately, he's in a ridiculous spot because it's like literally like 20v1, and he's having to like be the person that's most calm with 20 other people telling him, "Hey, bro, why you gotta be like that, bro?" And he's like by himself. There's not anybody like in his corner being like, "Well, hold on, guys, calm down, put the pitchfork down, relax, hold on, we can talk about it." Instead, he's dealing with like this weird like pressure that's, granted, I understand why it's there, but it's 20v1. I don't know anybody that when it's 20v1 does not get defensive and does not get a little bit annoyed by that. Every single person here is actually guilty of that, and it's absurd to think that he would behave in any way that isn't normal. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand the perspective on that. I'm not saying Damon's right. I'm not saying his statements are correct. I'm saying that his statements are reasonable based on the responses I was reading from the community. Like, are you kidding? Well, let me address this directly to you. Abram, I'll talk to you directly, sort of, kind of. If it's 20v1 because he's wrong, then how about this? Right? How about this? If it's 20v1 because he's wrong, that's fine. Okay. So, if he's wrong, why is the same question being asked 20 different times? Like, let's say Jamin gives you his justification and it's not appropriate. He's still wrong, right? What are you getting? What satisfaction are you looking for? Do you want him to say I'm sorry? Will that make you feel good? Like, does that make anybody like is that what people want? Like, do you want him to like apologize for like let's say he made a mistake. Do you want him to apologize to you individually or to the entire community? Like, and I understand how what I just said sounds condescending, so let's try this. So let's say he just simply made a mistake and you want him to be held accountable for it. Well, isn't he already being held accountable for it when it's 20v1? Like, I guess at what point, from my perspective I'm asking, at what point? No, I agree. They were asking all on their own behalf, right? But my point is, at what point does, like, a statement that he gives will satisfy that level from the community though. Because let's say, because like this is what happens. All right, I'm gonna give you an example, and this isn't just because like it's Damon or anyone from FFG. I'm gonna give you my perspective as Hollis Echo. You ready? Here we go. I consistently do a podcast where week to week we review cards, and on Reddit we have people personally attack our decisions and intelligence because we misread how good a card is, positive or negative. And these people don't know us at all. Instead, what they would like is they want to flex an e-peen because we state to them publicly that we misjudged a card that we could not have predicted necessarily in a field of hundreds of cards. I'm gonna go and spoil this for you. I'm not gonna apologize. I'm never gonna apologize for like a card I misjudge. Because I'm gonna make a mistake. Like, I'm not gonna call every card appropriately. I guarantee you there's cards that I misjudged that I thought were like good, they weren't good. And there were cards I thought that were bad and they were obviously good. Like that's gonna happen. And I know a ton of people that make really bad evaluations all the time that think a card is better than it actually is. And vice versa, think a card is worse than it is. When you do what I do, like, and the thing is, like, people like P-Chak, like Abram, like The Source, like Terminal 7, like, and you know, Run Last Click, any and every podcast, like, you're gonna be used to your critics, right? And I think that at the core, what I'm saying is you have to have a thick skin to not be flustered when people like judge the information you're providing. Because the truth is, it's your fault for putting it out there. It's even worse for when you're a designer, right? Because like if you're a designer, the moment you make that card, it's out, bruh. Like it's to the masses, and they're open, and they can widely say whatever they want about that card, and immediately, because you have a direct like you have a direct like influence on what that card does. So the moment it comes out, your judgment's being called into question. It's like, how did you print this card knowing this was coming out or this was coming out, and so on and so forth? Because you have anyone in FFG, whether it's Damon, it's Boggs, it's Lucas, has a direct line into what's coming down the pipeline. They have playtesters and a group of people, excuse me, and feedback telling them what should and should not affect cards that are designed. So when that card comes out, it's going to be super critical. I think what's happening, and like the reason why I got bent out of shape the most was it was one of the first, it wasn't the first, but it was one of the first few times in reading comments that I felt like the community was going ham. And as someone who goes ham all the time, I felt like it was almost inflammatory, like how people were pushing. It's fine to question his judgment. It's fine to disagree. It's fine if a card is bad that they create that they think is better than what it is. But if all that is true, God damn it, Lycan. If all that is true, okay, you also have to provide the details, your opinion, in a way that is as sensitive as he would have to be sensitive about disagreeing with you. If you want it to be like a balance, like, don't you? I think it's a little unfair to like expect it to be 20v1, even if he knows he's wrong, or maybe he doesn't know he's wrong. Even if he's wrong, it's sort of a ridiculous like concept for him to be wrong and have to defend himself 20v1 and try to be sensitive to everyone's opinion. And when he's not, everyone's condescending. But then when everyone's being what may be hostile, like egregiously hostile, then no one is stepping in to be like, hey, everybody calm down. John Wesley stated, people wanted to vent. Okay, that's fine. Like, I totally get it. But it's a person. Like, it's not, like, he's not a fucking robot. He's not a robot that you literally insert bad comment A in, bad comment B2, and then, like, he responds with positive comment A like that. Because no one's like that. Imagine this. Imagine you go to him. Imagine you go to, like, someone at all that designs anything. Like designs Netrunner. And you're like, hey, this card's really bad. And they're like, fuck you. Then you're like, whoa, what? Like, hello? Like, that's really rude. Well, it's like, well, yeah, but I think the card is fine, so fuck you. Like, that's really what I think. Like that sounds like so like absurdly difficult. Like absurdly like more. That's so absurdly extra. Like that response is not even warranted. Like, I feel like there's some agree. Like, there's some degrees here, and I guess wait, hold on. Let me catch up to reading. Okay, so it seems like okay. Yeah, Abram, I feel you. I feel you. Like, 1 second. I'm catching up here. Yeah. Okay. No. That's something I'm gonna get to in a sec, Abram. Actually, I'll get to it now. Abram makes some good points. So, I do feel like this. I feel like on the FFG side, I think it's super super critical that like everything you're saying in response to the comments on cards, even if you think it's bad, has to be very sensitive because you're dealing with a mob of people that already don't agree. I'm not saying that you bullshit. I'm just saying be sensitive. Like if they say the card is bad and you say what makes it bad and they give you an answer and you disagree with it, I'm not sure how I should respond. I'm gonna ask the chat actually, guys. Let's say you tell Damon a card is bad and Damon says, "Well, I disagree," and he tells you why he disagrees with it, and it's clearly not a good reason. Like, how do you? Is your point like what's your strategy here? Is it to convince him the card's not bad, or that he's mistaken, or do you let it go? I don't know what the response here is for you guys. And as far as Abram, if anyone is coming at you from FFG, if anyone's coming at you from FFG, that's not good. That's never good. No one that works at the company should be coming at you directly in any sort of hostile manner because the truth is that you're a fan of the game. And I think that it has to be a balance here. It's a balance of attitudes on both sides. Like, if you want a good response from FFG, then you have to behave in a way that solicits a good response. If you want a shit response, then sure, be shitty when you talk to them. And of course, I agree with this actually. Abram said I don't think the majority of the statements were meant to be like inflammatory, which is true. I don't think the majority of them were. I definitely don't think the majority of the statements were inflammatory. But I do think that there were some that were clearly inflammatory after a misunderstanding happened. And like after that, it was off to the races, and nobody wanted to back down. At that point, you had Damon being defensive because he thought people were being unnecessarily aggressive, and then you had people being aggressive because he thought Damon was being like condescending. When really all everyone had to do was just chill. O2 shortage is a bad card. Damon, I disagree. Okay, well, I think you're wrong, but that's fine. Because I mean, you're not gonna convince him. Like, how are you gonna convince him? Like, you're not gonna convince him that the card is bad if he thinks it's good. So like. Someone made a good point. Oh, that's another one. So I'm ranting here. Michael Dunnick said, to be fair, Hollis, the same group of playtesters through Cipher, Hard Hitting News, and Cincy's were fair. And balanced. They feel their game is dying, and people are losing faith in FFG and the design group. Now, this is a concern because on top of that, I also feel like, there is a sort of weird design issue, and I don't know where the breakdown is. Like. When I talk to some like really smart players, like actually like Abram and like Timmy Wong, and I haven't talked to I haven't talked to them in a while, but like listening to like their thought process whenever they make card selections, whether it's in a video, whether it's in like a deck breakdown, their decisions for card inclusions are really solid, and when they discuss like why a card is good or isn't good, they give so much detail that I'm like, bro, like why are you not like designing stuff? Because you should be like, because it's really detailed, it's really thought out. Now I know that when you're doing like the design process, you can't see everything at a glance and how the meta's gonna change, but there's some cards that are so glaringly good, like it's so glaringly good or so glaringly OP or whatever you want to call it. It's like I don't know what iteration where you played this where it wasn't. Like, or how this got missed. And again, I think that's very difficult because I'm not the kind of person that is in design. I'm not, and honestly, I don't think I'm not smart enough for it. So I don't think I could do that sort of thing. And like, I don't think I could do it reliably, but I think there are people in the community that can. And I think that those people, especially like, and we have a plethora of knowledge here, like through like Card Game DB. Wow. Throwback, guys. I mean, Netrunner DB, excuse me. We have a plethora of knowledge where it's like, like in Netrunner DB, people give deck breakdowns. And like I've seen deck breakdowns recently over the past year where people like break down like they have 2x of a card or 1x of a card, and they give like a paragraph on just the 1x inclusion and how it didn't work, why its inclusion is there, stuff like that. Those are the people that I want designing the cards. Also, I want people to design cards that are very, very intelligent, like very, very intelligent with, or sorry, not intelligent, excuse me, very, very like aware of the meta. That is critical. Like people that are aware of the existing Netrunner meta is super, super important, because it means that like a decision for cards coming out is going to be is going to be made with all of the knowledge. I feel like because of the way playtesting works, as we understand it, is they have every card available to them at once for the cycle, as opposed to per pack as it plans to be divided out. We don't always get the right division of cards, and how that affects it on a per pack basis. And even beyond that, we don't necessarily know if a card's going to be busted until it's way, way too late because of that. Because the deck, and this is what's weird, the deck archetype may be really, really popular, but they don't assume that that archetype wants to include the new weird card that's going to be coming out that's not supposed to enhance that strategy. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I want to see really a big change here as far as, and this is sort of like what I guess what I kind of wanted to end on is, to me, the Netrunner community, by and large, especially for someone like me I had not played competitive card games for years, is super inclusive. To me, it is amazing that I am able to hop on as just a rando guy. I haven't won Netrunner Worlds. I don't work at FFG. I don't do anything really special for the game besides be a part of 2 other amazing teams that produce content for Netrunner. And I can hop on, and 40 people are hopping in, and they're willing to listen to me rant, add to the discussion, and honestly, be real, complain and praise things that are happening in the game. That's amazing. Like, not every community is able to do that so fluidly. But what I also want to see is I want to see everyone be constructive towards the game. And this is from both sides. FFG, I would love to see you make efforts to be really constructive in the community and provide more information, and to include your player base more into the things that are affecting the game that they're paying you money for. Even, that means acknowledgement. Or saying, hey, yeah, we're aware of an issue. Guys, could you imagine how amazing it would be if Cipher came out and everyone said, hey, FFG, Cipher's really strong. FFG, Cipher's really strong. Hey, FFG, hey, did you know? Like, because that's what happened. Everyone did that. And we got a Twitter post, a Facebook post in Netrunner Dorks from FFG Official, and said, hey guys, we hear your complaints about this card. Granted, we understand that it's strong or something like that, but we want you to know that we're taking a look at it. And if it's problematic, we plan on doing something about it. What? Like that, let's just take a second and think about how much that actually does by also doing nothing. They haven't made a change. They haven't affected a single card in the game. They've done nothing. They've done nothing to change the game except do something to ensure players, we hear you. Like we see that you guys think there's a problem. And while we may not ever change, maybe we won't change it at all. But we understand. Like, I don't understand why that is a difficult concept. The comparison I give, I don't know if you guys play Overwatch. The comparison I give often is that Overwatch, of course, is an online like first-person shooter where you play like a team where it's like I guess different roles, if you will, right? And you basically in Overwatch there's patches, right? Now I know that a digital game is much different than a game like Netrunner, where it's a card game and you don't have the same control where you can just push a patch. But let me tell you what they do that I love. They do a developer's commentary where the developer will say, you know, I can't imitate him at all, but the guy is amazing, and he the fact that he even does this is amazing. He takes the time and he goes, you know, guys, we've heard some concerns about Symmetra, and I think that Symmetra, initially when we looked at her, we thought that, hey, this would be a really great idea as a concept for a hero, but we see that there's some weaknesses here. So this is some ideas we have upcoming for, for Symmetra. We think things may help or may fix it, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is that, like, even if the change isn't good enough, it does so much for the community to let them know, hey, they hear us. They're paying attention. they're not just completely, like we don't think they're completely clueless. And I think that if there's one thing I want to say FFG dropped the ball on very much, it's because they sort of preemptively resolve a lot of issues. The issue about accountability, like in the case of like the in the case of like the whole situation with Damon, like imagine a situation where like the card is like bad and someone from FFG, I don't care who it is, like, says, we hear you guys. We see that, this is a card we thought would be stronger than it actually is. And apparently we see there's concerns about it. While we think there's cards in the future that will enhance the card, and we're probably going to wait before we make a change or anything like that. It's interesting. We kind of want to see, it's good to get that feedback. We thank you guys for letting us know so we can keep an eye on this card, but we're aware of it. Without doing that, guys, we don't know what the fuck they're paying attention to. Like, can we be honest? This is the same company that without the information from Ben, who had tirelessly collected all the regional data, they didn't know what the best 4-5 decks in the meta were, or the most commonly included cards. They didn't know. Someone from the community provided this to them. They handed it to them. I'm sure they have their own internal data to some extent, but I guarantee it was not as detailed as the information handed by Ben and everyone that collected that data. And that's important. I think that's absolutely important when you design a game that's about balance. What is everyone playing? Why is it doing so well? What are the mechanics that are working really well and what aren't? Like, those are the things you should know. If you think a card is good and no one's playing it, it's probably good to ask yourself, why is no one playing this card? And that's information for you to make the game better. And it's like, when you don't do that, and actually Michael Dunnick is said exactly what I was going to. Actions speak louder than words. When you don't do that, we are actually asking you if you're paying attention to the same game that we are. A statement was made by Damon, I don't think we're playing the same game. Well, I don't think either side, whether it's the players or FFG, disagree. I don't think we are. I don't think we are playing the same game. Because I think that to an extent, we still see some cards that come out and we're like, this is an almost good card. Maybe this was the intent, maybe it wasn't, we don't know. But, we can't even tell because because you haven't said anything to us. We really want that. FFG, I promise you, the criticism that we give that's so harsh is because we actually love the game. And we really want you to be more forthcoming with us and telling us. If you feel like you dropped the ball, tell us. That's cool. We have faith in you. Rotation, like I want you to know right now, I'm incredibly positive about rotation. Like I really think after rotation and the new most wanted list, whatever that form that takes, fantastic. I think the game will actually be a breath of fresh air and everyone's gonna be happy. To the players, that's my rant on FFG. To the players, guys, we got to be supportive of not only our own community, but we also have to be supportive of those trying to make it better. I think Boggs is a step in the right direction for sure. Boggs seems like it's really open. And I think that if you guys haven't already had a conversation with Boggs or met him, I will tell you right now, the guy's pretty chill, and he seems pretty careful. He wants to acknowledge, the concerns, but he's still he's still reasonable. Like he can't just straight up say, everyone's right. He's got to do the due diligence to know, and be sure. And so yeah, like I want you guys to just focus. If you guys ever, granted, I'm just some dude on the internet. I want everyone, as best you can, God, to please focus on being constructive to all of you. To all of you. Be constructive to the designers. If you, in any form or way you can, be constructive to each other as players. You should want to grow the community. You should want the designers to be better at being designers because it makes the game better. You should want play testers at being better. You should encourage play testers to be better. And be respectful. You should encourage yourselves to enjoy the game as best you can and be respectful to each other. Don't cuss each other out because everyone's playing Wiz or somebody. Like, don't do that. Like try your best to add this constructive criticism to the game that you think is going to nurture people taking the feedback from FFG and using it and sticking with it. Even if if you don't feel like they're listening, that's cool. Tell them in a polite way you don't think they're listening. And at some point, I hate to be that guy. At some point, you kind of have to drop it, guys. I have talked my mouth off so much to FFG and different people within the company often about issues that I think are present in the game. And I will tell you that sometimes they're just not hearing it. And maybe it's because they honestly know more than what we know. Sometimes that is actually it. I hate to be that guy. They make mistakes, but sometimes they actually know more than us because they see the entire carpool coming out. They know that this will be a problem for a pack or two, and then it's not a problem. I will say that the majority of the time, that's not the actual issue. The majority of the time, the issue is like, obvious problem cards that are ridiculous, or balance issues that I think are very obvious. But I want everyone to be encouraging. Like I think that when I go to Worlds, guys, and I go to Nationals, and I go to these events, I want to make, and also all these podcasts and stuff, like all this stuff I do because I very much like appreciate like the love of the community, and because everyone seems so really, really cool. I have yet to go to a big event and somebody cuss me out. I like also how, because I said that, someone's probably going to cuss me out upon meeting me at like Worlds or whatever. But I like that I can go to those events and like I can see someone like Abram who like designed like an amazing deck and be like, bro, how'd you come up with that? That's insane. Or see Damon or Jacob, where I'm like, yo, seriously, those rules, like, bro, those rules though, like how do you get all the wording, and like how do you do all this? Like, how much time does it take out of your day? Like, seeing those connections to the community are positive things because they make it smaller and relatable, because it's not just like this rando on the internet like made this deck. Oh, look, this guy's right in front of me and he did this thing. He recorded this thing or wrote this article. And I love that. I think that is an element of the game that I really enjoy. So, yep. Man, that was long, guys. For the most part, I think we had roughly 40 to 50 people in here the entire time. That's really nice. I really appreciate, again, everyone staying here and being a part of it. Let me get some shout outs here real quick. Really quick to a lot of people, actually. I don't get to say thank you to a lot of people, and that's partially because I don't have enough time. But in this case, I'm going to take the time, I think. There are a ton of players in this game that I think very much contribute to a lot of really good critical thinking as far as like how we approach deck design, how we approach deck design, deck building, how we evaluate cards. I honestly could not give a list of all those people, but to all those people that have contributed in that form or fashion, whether it's like you wrote an article on StemHack, which I do check every couple of days, whether it's you wrote an article on StemHack or you give a detailed deck breakdown, or you created something amazing in Netrunner. I just want to give a huge thank you to all of you guys. I want you to know right now that those of you that challenge yourselves to make a great deck, to evaluate cards the way that you do, you are helping everyone. I guarantee you, I cannot tell you how many cards I looked at and said, maybe not great, and then I looked at the point of view from those players' perspectives on how they look at cards, and I completely changed how, my evaluation from that perspective. And it's helped me with the perspective of a lot of other cards that, that we either floating under the radar, or I thought about that were really, high end and just didn't. God, right, man, Ryschen, you're about to get banned for that liking. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, like to all of you guys that are innovators like that push the envelope and have great deck designs and really like evaluate cards really carefully. Thank you a lot, because I feel like you're doing a lot for the community. Like, newer players don't just hop in the game and know everything. Like, your evaluations and your deck design help a lot of people, so thank you. Every content creator possible, The Source, Run Less Click, Team Covenant, and our Bad Publicity, and that entire crew, all my guys are excellent. The Winning Agenda, all those guys are excellent. Oh my God, am I missing anybody? Terminal 7, older guys like Agenda 7, and Breaking News. I hope I'm not missing one. The Necronomicon. I don't know if you guys listen to them. San South. There's so many. Honestly, I might forget them all. I listened to so many podcasts when I started this game. I actually listened to all of them. I know people are like, yeah, I don't even really listen to TWA, you assholes. Or I don't really listen to Ann Arbor Bad Pub, you assholes. But Teamwork Cast, yes, like and Metropole Grid. I love those guys. Metropole, P-Chack, everybody that does this content. Thank you. So, oh, what's the other one? Like the guy that does the weird videos on Netrunner. I can't remember his name. Oh no. Someone tell me what their names are. That guy's name is. He works glasses in the UK. He does like really weird Netrunner videos. But anyway, any content provider, you guys hit audiences. Corp Draw, yes, Corp Draw. I love Corp. You guys hit a whole bunch of audiences that get different things out of the game. When I saw a Reddit post today, another click, another credit. Yes, I saw another post today that said they listened to the Winning Agenda podcast, and it like effectively made them quit Netrunner because they didn't like it gave them a bad taste in the mouth because the evaluation was similar to their evaluation, right? They move on to, like, someone went on to say that like they don't listen to one of those podcasts because the opinion is fairly negative on cards, and it makes them lose like their excitement for new card packs. Now, while I have a difference of opinion because that's me, I think it's amazing that there's all these options for players that get different things out of the game. I will say that like competitively, I'm happy. Competitively, when I think about decks, I very much like listening to or talking with Jesse and Wolfie and Brian about the cards in Netrunner on the Winning Agenda, and on in our Bad Pub with Jameson and Corey. But sometimes I just want to hear what they come up with in Terminal 7 or what they come up with Run Last Click. Like those are good casts, and I'm happy that all the Netrunner.co.uk, Code Marvelous. How could I forget Code Marvelous? Ben Nee, guys. I mean, again, the CD Location, guys. There's so many of you guys. So CD Location, there's so many of you that I feel like Ice Hedge Fund. There's so many of you that I feel like there's something for everybody, and you guys have an audience, whether it's 1,000 people, 100 people, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, like whatever. I'm so happy. Neo Reading Grid. I'm so happy that all you guys produce content for Netrunner. Thank you so much. And unfortunately, I can't listen to all of you, but I do listen to a fair number of you. There are some weeks where I listen more to Netrunner than I actually play Netrunner. Actually, that's pretty common. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many of you that I appreciate. God, that was long. But I said I don't really get a chance to do this often. I want to give a huge shout out to very specific people at FFG. So there's two for sure that come to mind 100%. Well, three, excuse me. The first one is Damon. It's Damon Stone. The second one is Michael Boggs, and the third one is Jacob Morris. I had the opportunity. Michael Boggs is more recent, but I had the opportunity to actually have a dinner with them at Gen Con last year. Let me just say this: those guys are not only smart, they're really passionate, and it becomes a labor of love like anything else. In the same way how this is a labor of love for like doing podcasts, for them it's also a labor of love for card design and for rules clarification and really technical writing effectively. So huge props to them for being as involved as they can be with the game, and a huge shout out to Michael Boggs for being so involved right now, man. Like, he's trying. I don't know if you guys have seen, Boggs has gone on every cast that he can. He's responding as much as he can. He's joining Facebook groups. That dude's about that life. Like, he's trying. He's clearly trying. But yeah, that's basically the last bit of the shout out I wanted to give, and I wanted to give a shout out to you guys for staying with me as long as you have. It's been fun. I don't know how often I'm gonna do this. My plan right now is to simply set it up so that I do this as maybe even just like once a month, because I feel like if I do it too often, it loses its value. But I think once a month, having a good rant session about Netrunner and about issues and where we stand and stuff like that, I think that's actually really good. The collective community vent channel that doesn't exist, that isn't StimStack, I think that's actually pretty good. So yeah, that's it, guys. Like, I don't really have much else to say. If you have any positive feedback, give a thumbs up or like the video, or subscribe. Like, anything. If you want to give any positive feedback, like, subscribe, comment. Same thing to the Facebook as well. If you wanna comment, do that. I am in the StimStack sometimes, but I just don't go there as often anymore, just because it's difficult. Like, chatting at work now has become more complicated. so it's hard for me to go in there just during the day. But yeah, no, I would love your feedback. Things I did wrong. If you guys want to say that so you didn't agree with something I said, that's fine, and I will actually tell you, okay, like I won't be condescending about it, and I may even like just probe, like, hey, what'd you disagree with? Because I mean, my thing is when I do this stuff, I like perspective. Like not saying I want you to argue with me, but I if you disagree, I want you to disagree. Like, obviously, don't bullshit me just because you want to be cool. Like, just disagree, we'll still be cool anyways. We can get burritos and beer later. Someone asked if I'm hyped for L5R. I'm super hype. It is a guaranteed double box for me, so I will have a full set as soon as possible. And I will, I will 100% consider content, but I doubt. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know, man. It's too new, bro. Like, it's too new to know. I would love to do like some content for L5R though. In fact, if you guys would like to see L5R content, maybe that's feedback you should be leaving for A&R Bad Publicity. Is in general, like if any of you are gonna switch or add L5R to your gaming license. What the fuck am I saying? If any of you are gonna add L5R to your gaming list, like, are you gonna play it? Like, yeah, like, and you want to see content about that, you guys should let us know, because I think that's something we could maybe pull off. I mean, I think the game is gonna be good, but I don't know. But I'm willing to give it a try and see if it all works out. I mean, I am excited about it. And yeah, man. And for everyone that likes Lycan, I mean, you'll never be invited to anything I do ever again. Don't speak to me at Worlds in public. Don't ever do it. But yeah, that's all I got, guys. That's all I got. Thank you guys so much for attending this wonderful Ren session. Again, any and all feedback. I do not care if it is negative. You will never hear someone from FFG say that. I do not care if it is negative. I don't care. If you disagree with the format, if you think it could be better organized, if you want to see it better organized, if you disagree with the point I made or a card I evaluated, tell me. Don't care. Just give it to me. Doesn't mean I'll agree. It just means, hey, like, we're on the same page. If I can throw my opinion out and say, guys, deal with it, you can do the same. We can have a chat, a conversation. I love that. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you again. Have a great night. And, I mean, I guess we'll see some of you tomorrow for the regular Bad Pub episode. So, thanks again.